Hi, I'm Evan Matthews, writer, director, and producer of Recoil. Recoil is a story about family. It's a story about brothers.
I'm Evan's twin. We go way back since the very beginning, since conception.
I am the youngest of the three brothers.
Recoil is a film about two brothers and through Marshall's space journeys.
And he comes across a distress call from his estranged brother, Alec.
And he has an opportunity to make things right between the two of them by saving his life.
Even at the farthest reaches of space, you know, the bond of brotherhood is still so strong. There's no extreme that you wouldn't go to for your brothers and for your family, for that fact.
Everything I do, no matter where we go, keeps repeating. I'm not even sure what's real anymore.
Well, one of the things I did right away is I was interested in what helped influence Evan to write the script.
The main inspiration behind Recoil is actually a very personal one. It comes from my life and from my brother's.
When I read the first draft, I'm like, wow, we're really going here. Because in our real life, I have my twin brother and I have a younger brother, and we found out that, we don't have the same parents. We have the same mother, but we didn't find that out for years later.
As all families experience, hardships and are tested through time, we ourselves were tested.
The three of us, we've always been so incredibly close. We've loved each other regardless of the situation.
Kind of just went to a place I've never gone to, like internally, and I just wanted to put that on screen. And what ended up happening is, by putting something personal in there, not only kept the passion alive for me, but it became very relatable to other people.
I wanted to be a part of that because he wasn't just telling a space story, he's telling a story about brothers and familial love, and that's very dear to my heart.
He's not doing this for any other reason other than he really believes in the story, and he really has a true connection to each person and all the characters in the script. He would come over to my house and we would just lay it out on 3x5 cards and see how everything could flow together, if he was really connecting with everything.
And you spend maybe 5 or 6 months while I was writing in pre-production, getting the crew together.
We quickly found out that this movie was going to be a lot bigger and a lot more massive in scale than we had originally thought.
I was very lucky because we were able to work with a lot of different industry professionals as well as students who can work on the film as well.
We decided to try to find people that were really serious about their craft and really knew what they were doing.
We don't have a big budget for this. We just don't. It's a student film. I have to raise my own money.
Evan took out his own production loan from USC as well, and that's always kind of a harrowing experience for a director.
But you do whatever you have to do to get the film made, and that was the only option at the time. Kickstarter ended up being one of the main sources of fundraising. We definitely would not have gotten through physical production without the funds that we raised there, and we had Annalisa, one of the producers, assigned solely to Kickstarter and fundraising because it was such a huge task.
I lived, breathed, ate, drank Kickstarter for 10 days, I think our first campaign was. It was a really exciting thing. People were able to come to this general information page and see what we were about and see what we were doing, and that we were moving forward and we were serious and we had a team and we were going toward our vision and our goal, and we were gonna achieve it no matter what.
3, 2, 1, done.
Boom!
Bang.
Recoil is happening.
Oh, funding successful!
Woo! We are going to space. Black holes and back. All right.
We were beyond blessed, and we cannot express our gratitude enough for all of the money that we received and all of the support. I mean, I felt like people genuinely wanted to be a part of what we were doing. Without the backers, there would be no Recoil. Not only did we raise the money for it, but we also really promoted for the film.
That was a sign of good things for us. It was a huge morale boost. It's what we needed going into physical production. It got us to our budgetary goal. And it's a wonderful thing.
One of the difficult things about Recoil is that we had such a huge spaceship. It's almost 60 feet long from the cargo section all the way to the nose of the ship. So we need to have the biggest stage available.
And we couldn't build on the set. That meant that we had to bring the set in pieces.
20th Century Fox donated a stage to USC, and it was the biggest stage, and we got to shoot on that. So we loaded in the ship, so we had enough room for the ship and for green screen to wrap around the whole front section of the ship. Production's like the perfect storm. You're preparing for this big event. So it's one of those scary things, because once you start your first day, the train leaves the station and it doesn't stop moving. This was a 6-day shoot, and we had to be very efficient with our time.
And the reason we had to stay on schedule was a lot for budget. We are set for equipment, we're set for the location, so any little glitch is kind of just like gonna screw everything up.
The director has a huge vision that needs to be foreseen. The DP needs to be in sync. They need to be on the same wavelength on everything. Howard was the perfect DP for us.
One of the challenging things for Recoil is that we have so many visual effects. So it was really important to find a cinematographer who's worked with a lot of visual effects, and Howard has.
Working with Evan is really great because I feel like it's weird, I'm like the third twin. So if that's a triplet, I believe is what they call it.
And he's kind of like a brother with the way I get along with him. And he's just fun to work with.
I am spontaneous. Tell me you're getting this. I am. Okay, good.
So in the downtime, he'll just crack jokes, tell some stories, and then boom, right back into it.
He's hardworking. He's no stranger to long hours. It made a really challenging shoot a little bit easier having Howard around. So I was really lucky to have him. He was a good find.
But the thing that's interesting is that he'll be thinking about something and I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And we have said almost nothing to each other. In many ways, that helped us a lot because we were under a lot of pressure for speed.
We're well into our day at this point. We're about half a day behind.
Because of the delays in the set construction, we lost an entire day. That's an enormous amount of pressure.
Because now we have all these pages to cover and performances to get through, and camera setups to get through, and now we have 5 days to do it.
Realizing that you are not going to make your first day is probably the worst feeling that a producer could ever have. It's almost like somebody has ripped your stomach out and just thrown it down and just kicked it around a bunch of times.
As it was, there's a considerable amount of specialty VFX type shots that we had to do anyway. And so the pressure was to try and maintain a lot of the cool dazzle effects while still honoring the fact that we were shorter by even a full 24 hours in shooting.
I was pissed, and I'm thinking about my brother and the film he's trying to make. So I got into brother protective mode, and I think that's also good to have family on set for those reasons.
As I voiced to Evan, the thing that's important is that once we start rolling, we can't make any more changes. So we're stuck with this.
So it needed to be right from the start. So we let the guys work for another half day.
I think it was the right decision. Ultimately, the brain trust decided to delay by a day.
That was probably one of the toughest decisions, especially on the first day, to say, oh, we're not shooting anything today. We gotta get the set in a good place.
That at the end of the day, no matter what, we were all in it together, and we were all willing to do what it takes to work those extra hours, to stay behind those extra 30 minutes.
We were eternally grateful to all of these people on set because they were workhorses. They just picked up a hammer, picked up a saw, we're shaving things down, painting things. I was on there using a saw and trying to make all these different blocks and parts of the set too. All of us pitched in because we needed to get this thing done and we needed to get rolling.
The set looked great. The little extra effort and detail that went into it really made it feel like a cool set.
The ship was amazing. Evan knew exactly what he wanted. He worked with the production designer to get every single little detail right, down to small LED lights on the deck. He was very particular.
Rick, who designed it, Rick, thank you so much. I mean, that was it was amazing.
You felt like you're on this spaceship, you're walking around, you're like, this is so cool, I'm going up this tunnel.
What was so cool for me was just to be able to walk through it and see all the little different things he had put in, all the buttons, all the gadgets, in the cockpit. To me, it just helped create the reality.
And that's what you want to feel. If you can feel it there, then I think it's going to read on camera as well.
Can't wait to call action, I think.
I really liked what we were able to pull off in the cockpit because we took off-the-shelf projectors and like literally we're running fingers in front of it and we're just doing random color sequences on a computer and we're creating this time warp effect, and it was so cool.
So being in the cockpit was great, and one of my favorite parts of Star Wars is like when they go into hyperspeed, you know, and just like, I used to always love that.
And you combo that with, we had jib work there, we had a tilt system for it, so it was like a dual head system, so I could actually tilt as I was moving the camera.
But to take it to the next level, I like reality, and so Matt did. He ducked behind my chair, and he would shake it, and I was just like, shake it as hard as you can. So that really helped kind of get the head going.
It was just unworldly, and it was cool. I have to say that like that's one of those things I'm super proud of, that we were able to pull it off, and I think it adds so much production value because it normally would be a really expensive, complicated thing to do, and we did it for almost nothing.
In the futuristic world that we have and the type of ship and the character and what he does, we want to have, you know, a costume that really mirrors that.
I think in terms of creating the wardrobe for each actor, you definitely want to take into consideration what it is that they're wanting to achieve with their character, while still making sure that the vision of the director is always sort of seen first and foremost.
I liked my costume a lot, but I loved John's. He looked like half his costume was, you know, Nathan Fillion in Firefly was the coolest thing.
I wanted to take just modern and actually mix it with future. The helmet Langs, the Alexander Wangs, I wanted to add something a little different, but still a little bit of fashion.
I want to have certain scenes have certain colors, the characters have different colors.
One brother we did with our more so blue hues, whereas the other one we did more of an orange, warmer tones. So from the get-go, we were already kind of dealing with sort of these contrast colors. So that's instantly going to be putting characters on sort of opposite sides. But at the same time, they're complementary to one another, so they mend well.
When it's more in the mindset of Marshall or, you know, becoming who he's supposed to be, you start to see more orange surround him in his world, where there's a lot of the missing brother being hinted at or that being pushed, you'll see more blue.
One thing that I was really looking forward to is having the actor's finger cut off. So when we approached Selena about it, it was really fun because she was just like, oh yeah, I got this. I know exactly what I'm doing.
When you get your fingers cut off, my biggest question was, I mean, do you scream your head off like a little girl? Or is it just like so crazy intense that you just like don't even know what to say? I did scream like a little girl, one or two.
At one point, I have to freeze, and the makeup was amazing. When I saw the photo of it, what it actually looked like, because I guess I didn't really, I saw it in the mirror, but I didn't actually get to see what it looked like on screen until a screenshot was posted, and it was, I mean, I looked dead. I looked completely frozen. That was the coolest, and the little ice crystals that they used, they just looked like the real deal.
A little scary was the scene where we have to cut the wires, because we really only had one chance to actually cut these wires. So we want to do it for real and have like the stunt and the lights go off.
Practical effects just look better most of the time. So in this circumstance, we only had one shot at it. The fact that we actually pulled it off, and the fact that they built that rig, by the way, in less than 24 hours, astonishing. We didn't have that prior to the day before.
You know, the thing I had was great, but it was kind of awkward. You know, there's no real laser, even though the probably adding a laser, you know, I'm trying to do 18 different things at once, and we only got a take or two.
And it went off without a hitch. The smoke looks really great, the flickering of the lights, the LED system, everything went great.
Everyone stepped up. Again, this movie has been an evolving process, but the one consistent thing is people stepping up and being professional and really loving, you know, the project and what we're doing and believing in it.
Nailed it.
You know, editing is one of those phases I just absolutely love, because as soon as you survive production, it's like, okay, now we're editing, now we're in a room, now we're working on the film, and it's exciting to see what do we get.
Superstar editor Josie's like,
Josie's a great friend. She's our super talented editor. She's just got great instincts. She's wonderful to work with.
And so we're best friends, and you know, we've always been best friends, so it was a no-brainer saying I was going to work with him.
I've worked with Josie before as an editor with her, so we already had a working relationship, which made this such a wonderful process.
It's a lot of, talking, and then a lot of me working, and then a lot of talking and a lot of me working, and then, so what is nice in a director is if they can just give you space to try things, and if they're able to articulate clearly what they're going for. And so then I can craft a scene and say, is this what you're going for? Is this what you're going for? And any director that has enough trust in the person, you can, as a director, step back and you just come in as a taste machine and basically say, this is good, this is not, and why. And the why is that's what makes a director, is the why.
Her and I can really just say whatever we need to say to each other, try different things out. I trust her to try things, and she'll hear me out in ideas, and sometimes I have a bad idea, and sometimes I have a good one, and vice versa, and that's what's great.
And that's the whole point of an editor-director relationship, is not so well of how good the director is or how good the editor is, it's how good they are together.
Above all, the most important scenes are the most dramatic scenes, the most emotion, the most, impactful performance. That's the hardest. That's the hardest thing to do.
I really felt Marshall's pain and anguish towards his brother. And so one of the things I feel like when his brother passes away is like he didn't have that closure with his dad or his brother. And I think that was an extremely difficult part of it.
It was really the first time that I had really sat there, watched a scene, and connected.
That was awesome. I was like, John really gave a great performance, and you want to get that feeling on set, and I did. And you get to post, and you're like, why isn't this cutting together?
With all death scenes, if anyone's seen any other behind the scenes of other death scenes, they can go really cheesy, really fast. So, when we want to make it as real as possible so that when we watch it, we're sad.
I remember we got to a point where we were like, okay, it's good enough. It always bothered me.
Bodhi, power the medic. Start a warm IV with adrenaline mix.
Got to a point we're getting pretty deep in the edit, and we're like, okay, are we doing everything we can to make this the best edit possible? Because we need to picture lock, we need to move into visual effects, we need to move into sound design, and really make that big push. Because once we picture lock, those floodgates open, and it needs to happen.
And so the only way we could organize our thoughts was to just put up color-coded cards. And the different colors were the different characters. And you could clearly see, it's like, there's so much blue here, and this yellow sucks. So we need to either make yellow better or cut yellow out.
Then you find the roadmap. You're like, oh, okay, this is where a scene's too long. Here's how it's timing out. Here's how it's balancing. So you get to see that, and you can stick to it. And it was a great game plan, and really catapulted us through the lot.
Guess what, yo? I think we're picture locked.
I think so.
I think
can
so.
I stand up?
Lock. You can lock.
Double high five. And then hug.
Yay! Oh my god. This is weird. I can't believe it's like...
Evan emailed me and he's like, I've shown the film to a lot of people and they say the only sore thumb for them is the death scene.
It kind of broke like a cardinal rule of like, okay, once you picture lock, don't go back and start re-editing a scene because it throws off your time code, it throws off your sound, and your visual effects, and your score.
And and when he's like, hey, we need to re-edit this scene, even like a couple weeks after we'd locked. And I was like, of course, let's make it better. Let's always make it better.
I said, okay, let's meet up. Had some really good ideas for it.
He goes, no, I have an idea. And it was just, we needed the time and to go away from it. Because as soon as he said,
oh, I got it. This is how we can cut the scene. We can do like jump cuts in or jump cuts out to really create more coverage. So we can stay with the same take, or if we splice two takes together, you wouldn't really notice it in a jump cut versus cutting around it or cutting to something else.
And then finally at the end, we were watching it. It was the saddest I've ever been watching it. And he said it really rejuvenated people that we are aware of its flaws and we want it to always be better. And that's the part that we can control. We're not gonna VFX, a tear on his face because we need that, which we considered at one point, like, can VFX solve this? And we're like, no, editing can solve this because editing always solves it.
Doing the score, like the live score, recording sessions, like the icing on the cake, some of my favorite parts of filmmaking. It's so emotional.
There's nothing more powerful, I think, than a movie score. They can make you feel like so sad, and they can direct the film or like you just emotionally?
Garrett Coker, the composer, I worked with him before. He just thinks outside the box, which is just great. I mean, that's what we've been doing the entire time with Recoil. So he ended up being just like the perfect fit for this.
The core of this movie is the human connection, and that's what drives all the other cool stuff that happens in the film. And if you establish the human connection, you then make the characters relatable. Then I started searching for the sci-fi sounds and also sounds to represent the brothers. We basically use the piano for Marshall a lot to represent his theme, and then we have these bell sounds representing his brother. Here we go. And this is kind of cool, but it's not really spacey enough. And as soon as you put that reverb back on, what I did was get a piano sound and then make it sound like it was in a massive, massive, huge space. And what you get is this really weird, ethereal, spacey sound. It also sounds kind of empty. And this film deals a lot with emptiness and being alone. And once you find that signature sound, everything else kind of falls into place and you can build around it.
So we had a lot of back and forth creatively about the story and the direction of the movie and how the score is going to either support that or push a certain emotion or be subtle and be in the background.
We went to East West Studios to record just 12 strings.
It was so beautiful. The strings were fantastic. The playing was beautiful.
When you're conducting for a film, it's really a communication exercise. The players we got are really good, so actually your job as a conductor is really easy because they kind of get it when they hear the music.
You could just feel the emotion in the room, and it definitely took the film to an entirely new place for me.
But the whole collaboration aspect of film cannot be underestimated. At the end of the day, I'm not just a composer, I'm a filmmaker, and as long as I remember that and I'm helping to tell the story, that's when the film gets to be really good. If everyone remembers they're a cog in the machine that's telling the story, then everyone's moving in the same direction.
Sound design is just as important as music to create an emotion.
Sound is one of the biggest characters in the film because there's so much story in the sound. There's so much creating that world and that setting.
When we're in the hospital, we want it to sound kind of eerie and cold or sterile. So I used a lot of air movements, a lot of, actually used my voice a lot to create the backgrounds and various processing.
We tried to use all original sound. We didn't use any sounds that are noticeable.
The sound design is completely unique and created for this film. There's no pulling sounds from sound libraries or pre-existing libraries. Jesse, Justin, and Dan, they're just doing an awesome job. This is the guys going out, trying new things, banging on stuff, making it from scratch.
A lot of organic sounds. I recorded vents, furnace exhausts. I had my brother, I recorded him. He's half of the ship tones in the entire film. And then used granular synthesis to make the tones and electrical energies.
With Evan, I actually edited a couple of example footsteps from like what I thought it sounded like so that we could get an idea before we went into Foley.
Foley was great. We went to Anarchy Post. Great facilities, really friendly people, really talented Foley artists.
Tara, the Foley artist, she was very patient with us. We made her try all sorts of things with, we had like a big metal box and then we put like a plank on it and then she had to step on that and he was like, no, we don't like that. So we put like wood and then the plank and then the metal and it was fun and it's cool to see that happening. And then playing with toys is always fun. ADR is a long process. It's great when you get actors that are good at it, which our guys were pretty good at it.
The ADR is always a really fun part of it for me. You get to kind of concentrate on the music of the scene as it's already been recorded.
Z33, break, L91.
It helps that he's a musician. Musicians generally are really good at ADR because they have like the rhythm.
The way that I kind of tackle ADR is that I listen to it rather than watching where the lips are so that I can hear the or whatever it is. It's exciting to see it all come together.
You know, I gotta give a shout out because there's a very talented filmmaker, Evan Matthews. Evan, stand up. Give us a little something. He's wearing the Star Wars shirt. Evan's made a fantastic film. It's a short film called Recoil, and it's a student film. Evan, is it a student film?
It's my thesis.
Thesis.
Evan needed a voice for Bodhi, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go to James. I think he has the right voice.
You know, I kind of had the idea of like, it would be cool if Bodhi almost had kind of like a Tom Cruise kind of sound, like a moodier thing, but he also is kind of nasally and sounds like he could be on the level with Marshall, the main character.
James was the voice double for Tom Cruise in Oblivion, and we really liked the sound of Tom's voice in that film. It was, of course, futuristic.
Called him, read the script, he loved it. He really connected to it in a similar way that I do.
It's this beautiful cinematic experience, and it's a science fiction film, and it's really cool. And I get to be the voice of the computer, right? I mean, is it okay to say what I'm doing? Okay. So I got to do a voiceover. He came out to the studio in Santa Barbara, and we hung out.
He's so great and wonderful. Is like the nicest guy in the world. Is so funny and fun to be around and tell amazing stories. He can mimic any voice out there.
And I voiced this character. And can we say that character's name? Absolutely. Bodhi. And so it's not, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. It's not that, but it's more me, really. But it was really great. So it's going to be coming out soon.
It's more, it's crazy. I was going to do it like this. I'm sorry, Dave. This lightsaber was your father's. He wanted you to have it when you were old enough, I wore this uncomfortable hunk of metal with my R2.
He's Obi-Wan in Clone Wars. I mean, how cool is that? He opened the door wearing a Star Wars t-shirt. I was so embarrassed I didn't wear my Star Wars t-shirt. That was a big moment for him.
I wanted to take the visual effects and make it a part of the movie and a part of the world, and it promotes the storytelling and keeps you in the film.
So the story really is what dictated what the visual effects will look like. It really set the tone for the environment that we were creating.
So audiences can watch it and they can say, oh, they can see things that they're expecting, so therefore they can believe in the story.
I got started with Recoil through Kickstarter.
Tar came on, was really helping with coordinating as well. He was helping with look development, coordinating with the concept artists and pretty much everyone from all the other departments. And it was kind of a natural progression because I've been talking to him almost as long as the former supervisor.
The previous VFX supervisor,
he had to quit because of his other projects.
And he quit at a very critical time. He quit at a time where we should have delivered the movie.
Tarek ended up becoming the VFX supervisor. He's like another brother type where he stepped up, he would do anything it would take to get the job done.
Yeah, Evan was oh my god, Evan was great. He has a way of just giving you a certain freedom and a certain, kind of support. He would always be open to new things. Whether it's coming from a composter, a lighter, or whatever, he was just all about having a family atmosphere, and it was really awesome working with him.
He was just an all-star. He always has a great positive attitude, and those are usually the people that did the best on the film or worked the best with me. And you need that because the job is hard enough. Those long days, you want to have someone with you that's a friend and is going to stick by you and feel like we're in it together, and he's definitely that kind of guy.
The bulk of the VFX of it was done remotely through Google Hangout.
Most of my VFX team was not in Los Angeles. They were all over the world and predominantly in San Francisco. Tarek was in San Francisco. About, I'd say, at least 80% of the team was in San Francisco. So we're constantly on Google Hangouts with 2, 3, 4, up to 9 people, all joining in a conversation, screen sharing, looking at footage. I'm describing what we need.
It was kind of, slower than working on the same spot.
It's a challenge because you can't necessarily convey everything that's in your mind. Most cases, you're doing your VFX at a VFX house and you can go and sit there and see them. They're all under one roof. You can compare shots with each other. For me, everyone's kind of spread out all over the place and it's just left up to communication. You get to a point you have to be there in person, especially towards the end, because this person's shot has to look like this person's shot, which also looks like this person's shot, and it all has to match and look the same. $275 miles to San Francisco.
So the first time he came, it was the beginning of May.
That was supposed to be the final push. That's where we had a lot of setbacks, a lot of big hiccups in the production. It started off with about 25 people at the labs that were donated by AAU, where a lot of the VFX artists were from. When we had to go back the second time, it went down to about 12 people who were able to commit and come back. But then when we lost the labs there because they were doing some upgrades, we had to go to Tarek's place, and about 6 people could go there, myself included. And then ended up sleeping there for a month, and we're all under one roof.
I think all of us in the month of June put our personal lives on the side. We were very, very dedicated to Recoil. We worked day and night. We would sleep about 4 to 5 hours, about 4 hours. Wake up and continue working.
The earliest person would wake up and work at 9 a.m. and the latest person would work until 5 a.m. and I could be there with them all day long, working on all of these shots. And I would just jump around from computer to computer at Tarek's dinner table, and we'd all be on the same page. And that's something you can only do when you're at a facility or a VFX house or at an actual person's home.
San Francisco again. Oh my God. I cannot believe I'm doing this drive again. I've gone to San Francisco 4 times back and forth in 6 weeks. I just really want to make this movie. I really want to be done.
I kept telling myself, I will do whatever it takes to make this movie. If it takes me driving 4, 5, 6 times to San Francisco, I'll do it. It's a 5, 6, 7 hour drive, and Tarek's there waiting for me. And I know where I park, and I know where I sleep, and
we basically lived together for that month.
Yeah, this movie's gonna be badass. This is such a hard movie. Having Annalisa and Billy here is huge. I couldn't do it without them.
There was a month that I did not see him, and I lived with him, and I did not see him for an entire month. And came back looking like a caveman.
That's pretty much all the stuff I have to do to make a movie, and then this is where my personal time goes.
As a brother and as a family member to him, I know the value of just being there and supplying that moral support.
This movie's like sitting there with a stack of bricks on your chest, and if Billy and Annalisa come and take one brick off, it makes a huge difference. You can just get that much more of a breath, and that's all you need to get to the finish line. Yeah, I couldn't do without them.
I think both me and Evan were always trying to be optimistic, or trying to show that we're optimistic, even if between us we were tired and we were very close on reaching breaking point several times.
Tarek's wife was so wonderful and welcoming and supportive, and she was kind enough to put together a Recoil cake. It was just wonderful. It was very touching to get that because I wasn't expecting it, and And we were just working so hard, and sometimes you stop to think about how much you would enjoy something like that. And it was just wonderful to see it and cut up all the pieces, which I didn't want to do because it looked awesome and it was delicious, and hand those out and take pictures with it. It was just fun having everyone together for that. That was really cool of her to do that. It was a really nice surprise.
The thing that made us get over how hectic it was is because we were very close to each other and we all believed in each other.
It was great because we were all so close already. We really took a liking to each other. It was very natural being in that environment.
We were always laughing. We were always, making jokes, and it was one of the best memories I have working on a project. I'm very, very proud to work with Evan and to work with all the other guys. I feel like they're my brothers and sisters now.
For something that's such a stressful thing to do, it ended up being a lot of fun and hard work and exhausting.
But if you have the right team, the right recipe to the team,
it's like you can get anything done.
I'm doing this for the VFX team because I promised I would. This is for the 5 a.m. club. I'm jumping in the pool with all 236 VFX shots we worked on and banged out over countless nights. And okay, let me do this before I do this room.
Hey, it's 7 a.m. I am driving to Santa Monica for color correction with Company 3. It's our last day.
One of the major parts of finishing a film is the color correction process. And one of the things we got lucky with again is that Annalisa, one of our producers, she happened to be friends with someone who worked at Company 3 in Santa Monica, one of the best color correction companies. I had the opportunity to meet with him, and he found a colorist, Cody, who's awesome and super talented, and just had a great team over there. So lucky to work with such a professional place. And it's funny when you think your movie looks good, you go through color and you're like, wow, I've never seen the movie look this way before. So color correction, which is a really fun, awesome part of the process. It's one of the last things you do. Is usually color and then sound mixing are one of the last two parts of making film. Mixing is the last part of sound. So that's when we take all of our sound design, all of our atmospheres, the dialogue, the ADR, the voiceover, all the Foley effects. This is the time when it all comes together, and they'll find the right levels and pan it to the right speakers and make you feel thrust into the environment so you're a part of it. So in this one session with our two sound mixers, we got two awesome guys, Josh and Carlos. They're award-winning sound mixers, and we're doing it at Warner Brothers at one of their suites that they're donating, and it's, I feel really lucky that we get in the door over there as well.
So you have anything to say to me? Marshall, this isn't about you. He needs you, okay? We need you.
What I really hope viewers take away is that not only just enjoy the film and feel like they're a part of the adventure, that it was exciting and they went on a fun ride, but they also felt something and they care about their brothers or family and they just respond to it. It's really nice to hear that. It's makes it feel like it's worthwhile to me.
And the fact that it was a story about brothers, and it was, brothers really working together to make it too. It was so perfect and great.
Just like in the film, you have Alec and Marshall working together and want to do anything for each other. We get to do that in reality. We get to work with each other, we get to help each other out, we get to be on set, we get to smile at each other, we get to huddle up in the corner and just look at each other and be like, hey, we're making movies.
It's nice to have them around. I get to share in the experience with them, and it just means more. The movie means more, it becomes more personal. And because of that, I'm used to working with them. I end up treating my set like a family environment. I know all my crew members, I know you guys. It's like I really enjoy knowing the people I work with and becoming friends with them and close with them. It's really important to me. So since we're all artists collaborating on this isn't my movie, this is our movie. This is something we're all doing together. All movies are like that. It's not just one person. I take it from the beginning to the end. I'm the director. I shepherd this across the entire planet, and it's all these characters I meet along the way of this huge journey. But the journey wouldn't be the same without any of them. And I let them know that I gave them a lot of creative freedom and a chance to really try things and be a part of this in a creative way. But I think the one thing to me that carries through the whole film is that I'm just very lucky. There's a lot of bad things happen along the way, but for every bad thing that happens, there's always something good or better that comes along. And that's kind of been the trend, and people say I'm lucky because of it. And I'll take luck any day of the week. I think anyone would, and hope that keeps going.